you keep asking yourself, why do I always end up here? It's not the same person, not the same relationship, but the pain, it's identical. It arrives wearing a different name and face, but it triggers the same ache. You give your heart, you feel the rush, the high, the hope. And then once again, you're left confused, emotionally drained, asking, what did I do wrong this time? Carl Jung didn't believe in random attraction. He believed in patterns. He believed in the unconscious pulling strings beneath our awareness, guiding us toward people who mirror the exact wounds we haven't yet healed. That magnetic pull you feel, that spark you swear is something divine, often it's your own pain recognizing a place to hide. We call it chemistry, destiny, a soul connection. But what if it's not that at all? What if what you're calling fate is actually a cycle? One designed not to punish you, but to wake you up. You're not falling in love. You're falling into familiarity, into the same emotional choreography you've known since childhood. Maybe it's the longing for someone emotionally unavailable, just like a parent who couldn't show up. Maybe it's the need to prove you're worthy of staying for, again and again, hoping someone will finally pick you. Not because of who you are, but because they see the pain you carry. Jung taught that every relationship is a mirror. What we see in the other is often what we can't yet see in ourselves. That person who enters your life and stirs up your soul, they aren't always meant to stay. Sometimes they're there to reveal something you've buried so deep, even you forgot it existed. You feel seen by them. But ask yourself, do they see you, or are they simply awakening the part of you that desperately wants to be seen? When you don't know who you are, love becomes a search, a desperate attempt to feel whole. And in that hunger, you don't choose from alignment, you choose from absence. You aren't pulled toward them because they complete you. You're pulled toward them because they represent the piece you've lost connection to inside yourself. Here's the hardest truth. Not every intense connection is a soul connection. Some are projections. Some are wounds wrapped in charm. Some are just your pain wearing perfume. And yet you chase, not because of them, but because of what they temporarily silence inside you. The fear of being alone, the fear of not being enough, the fear of your own emptiness. But Jung warned us, what we don't make conscious will rule our lives, and we'll call it fate. The moment you realize this, everything begins to shift. You stop romanticizing red flags. You stop mistaking anxiety for intuition. You stop needing someone to rescue you because you finally understand the only one who can save you is the self you abandoned trying to be loved. So how do you know if this person is your destiny or just another mirror? You watch what they bring out in you. If they bring you home to yourself, even through discomfort, even through challenge, there may be truth in it. But if they pull you further from your peace, if you lose yourself trying to keep them, then it's not love. It's your trauma trying to rewrite history. Destined love, according to Jung, isn't found. It's revealed, only when you're willing to face your own unconscious. The more you own your shadow, the less you'll fall for people who reflect it. It's not about who you attract. It's about who you are when they arrive. So if you're still meeting the same kind of heartbreak over and over again, pause, reflect. It's not them, it never was. It's your soul repeating the same story, hoping you'll write a new ending. And that new ending begins with you. If this truth spoke to your soul, comment below. Destined love starts when I stop repeating. Let that be your moment of awakening. There's a reason you can't stop thinking about them. A reason why, no matter how much time has passed, no matter how rational your mind becomes, something in you still aches. You dream of them. You feel them. You sense a thread tying your soul to theirs. And it doesn't matter how far they've gone, it still pulls. You call it love. You call it destiny. But Jung would have asked you something different. What in you is still unresolved that this person activated? The invisible thread you feel. It's not always sacred. Sometimes it's trauma. Sometimes it's the echo of your own abandonment playing on repeat. And until you recognize it for what it is, you'll keep chasing closure in the wrong places. You'll keep calling obsession connection and intensity fate. But what if the real reason you can't let go isn't because they were the one, but because they mirrored the part of you you've never dared to face? Carl Jung taught that what we don't integrate becomes projection. That person you can't stop missing might not be your soulmate. They might be your shadow, reflected back through the shape of someone else. They touched something in you that was already broken. They made you feel alive, not because they completed you, but because they awoke the wound you've carried since childhood. You don't miss them. You miss the version of yourself that felt seen, even if only for a moment. You miss the high. You miss the possibility. You miss what your imagination created around them. That invisible thread you call destiny might actually be a trauma loop begging to be broken. And the more you romanticize it, the more you delay your healing. There's a truth many people won't admit. The most intense connections are often the least healthy. The people who make your heart race, who make your stomach drop, who fill you with anxiety and longing. They aren't necessarily signs from the universe. They're signs from your unconscious, signs that you're still searching for someone to give you the validation you never gave yourself. Jung said the soul doesn't fall in love with another person. It falls in love with the parts of itself it sees in them. That's why it feels so cosmic. That's why it hurts so much. Because it's not just a person leaving. It's the shattering of the illusion that someone else could save you. You think it's love, but love doesn't confuse you. Love doesn't rip your sense of self apart. Love doesn't silence your intuition or make you betray your boundaries. What you're calling love might just be survival, a nervous system clinging to the last place it felt a spark. But here's the shift. The moment you stop asking, why did they leave, and start asking, what were they showing me about myself, you reclaim your power. The thread begins to loosen. The pain starts to teach instead of torment. Because now you're not just hurting, you're awakening. Maybe they came into your life at the exact moment your soul needed to be shaken. Maybe they activated a storm in you so strong it finally forced you to feel what you'd been avoiding for years. That's not failure. That's not loss. That's the soul's version of therapy. That's evolution dressed as heartbreak. Jung believed in synchronicity, not as superstition, but as a language of the unconscious. When someone shows up at the exact moment you're cracking open inside, it's not random. But that doesn't mean they're your forever. It just means your inner world was ready for a message, and they were the messenger. The mistake we make is holding on to the messenger after the message is delivered. We romanticize the pain. We tell ourselves we can't let go because it was real. But real doesn't always mean meant to stay. Sometimes it just means meant to wake you up. So ask yourself, am I in love with this person, or with the way they momentarily silenced my inner void? Am I chasing connection or avoiding healing? There's nothing wrong with you for feeling deeply. You're not crazy, you're not weak, you're human. And sometimes the heart breaks just to let the soul expand. But if you're still chasing someone who left, it might be time to stop asking what they meant and start asking what you mean to yourself. Let this be your pivot point. If this spoke to your soul, write in the comments. The thread is broken. I choose healing. That's today's code of self-liberation. Let it mark the day you stopped calling pain destiny and started calling it what it is, an invitation back to yourself. There's a difference between love and addiction, and it's one of the hardest truths to face. You say you love them, that you feel incomplete without them, that no matter how much they hurt you, something keeps pulling you back. You defend the connection, you romanticize the pain. But Carl Jung would ask you this, is it really love, or is it your shadow finally speaking out loud? You see, we rarely fall in love with a person, we fall in love with a feeling. And if that feeling is familiar chaos, if it reminds you of something unresolved from long ago, your unconscious will cling to it as if it's the most real thing you've ever known. That's not because it's love, it's because it's recognizable. And the unconscious doesn't seek peace. It seeks repetition until you wake up. The pain you feel isn't random. It's precise. It's calibrated to match the very frequency of your earliest wounds. Maybe they ignore you the same way someone once did when you were young. Maybe their affection is inconsistent, just enough to keep you hoping, never enough to make you feel safe. And so you keep reaching, not because you trust them, but because you fear what it would mean to let go. You think you're attached to them, but what you're really attached to is the possibility that this time someone might choose you and stay. You're not staying for love. You're staying for redemption, for proof that you're worthy. But love doesn't demand proof. It doesn't negotiate your value. It doesn't silence your needs. Jung said, "What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size." And what you're resisting isn't the loss of a person. It's the recognition that your pain has become your compass. You've been navigating life through what hurts, confusing intensity for truth, mistaking anxiety for passion. And every time it breaks you, you say it was real. But real love doesn't leave you empty. It doesn't break your spirit to keep your body close. This isn't about blame. It's about awakening. Your soul isn't confused. It's tired. Tired of being pulled back into loops that promise healing but only deliver collapse. Tired of calling obsession love and survival destiny. Tired of mistaking the storm for a sign. You're not addicted to them. You're addicted to the feeling of being needed, even if it comes at the cost of your peace. Sometimes the person you can't let go of is simply the one who helped you avoid yourself. They became the perfect distraction from the silence inside. And now that they're gone, you're being forced to hear it again. That's not punishment, that's the doorway. That's where healing starts. Because love doesn't hurt like this. Not consistently, not confusingly, not destructively. Love challenges you, yes. It confronts you, yes. But it doesn't deplete you. And if you're always the one trying, always the one shrinking, always the one doubting yourself, that's not love. That's trauma. That's your shadow crying out to be seen, not your soul being met. There's a line between passion and pain, and Jung would urge you to see where that line keeps disappearing in your life. Because unless you name it, unless you stop and turn inward, you'll keep calling suffering connection, and nothing will change. So stop asking if they're the one. Ask if you're the one you've been avoiding. Ask why you tolerate silence, confusion, and the absence of reciprocity. Ask what part of you still thinks you have to earn love by disappearing. Because the only person who needs to come back right now is you. Write this down. Say it aloud. Let it echo inside your healing. If it hurts, but I can't let go, it's not love. It's the shadow asking to be seen. That's your declaration, that's your code. That's the truth you've been circling for years. Now you see it. Now you name it. Now it begins to release you. Not every person who feels like home is meant to stay. Sometimes, what feels like a soul connection is really a mirror reflecting the exact version of you that needs to be faced. We don't always fall in love with people. We fall in love with what we see of ourselves in them. That's why Carl Jung believed that the soul doesn't fall in love with another person, but with what it recognizes of itself through that person. And in that recognition, something ancient awakens. Something that feels cosmic, fated, eternal. But is it truly love? Or is it an echo? We mistake resonance for destiny. Someone enters your life and instantly it feels like you've known them forever. You finish each other's sentences. You feel seen, understood. You believe deeply that this must mean something. And it does. But the meaning might not be what you think. Jung called it archetypal resonance. The soul responding not to the person, but to what they symbolically represent. They may carry the energy of the feminine or the masculine you've lost. They may embody the emotional safety you never had, or the chaos you always had and couldn't let go of. The connection feels larger than life because it's not about this moment. It's about everything that came before. Your whole being recognizes something in them. But recognition isn't the same as readiness. Just because your soul sees something doesn't mean your life is aligned to hold it. And sometimes the most intense bond comes to you not to become your future, but to reveal your past. You think it's different this time. You think they're the one. But pause. Ask yourself, do I see them clearly, or do I see what I want to believe? Jung taught that when we project our anima or animus, our inner image of the perfect partner, onto another person, we don't see them anymore. We see an ideal, a fantasy, a wish for wholeness. And that projection, while powerful, is not love. It's longing disguised as certainty. When you love someone truly, you see their imperfections and still choose them. But when you're caught in projection, their flaws feel like betrayal. You expect them to fulfill a story you've written long before they arrived. And when they don't, you feel lost, not because they changed, but because the illusion began to dissolve. Destined love, in Jungian terms, isn't about perfection, it's about truth. It's not a love that completes you, it's a love that reveals you, a love that doesn't require masks, a love that survives reality. And most of all, it's a love that helps you grow without needing to lose yourself in the process. If you have to beg for attention, if you have to shrink to keep peace, if you constantly feel unsure, it's not destiny. It's emotional dependency with a poetic name. And if you confuse that with a divine connection, you'll spend years chasing a ghost. True soul recognition doesn't create anxiety, it creates clarity. You feel grounded in their presence. You breathe easier. You don't feel the need to explain your worth, to convince, to perform. You are simply yourself, and that is enough. That's the sign. That's the difference. That's when love becomes something sacred, not something you survive. When the soul truly meets another, there is no need for games, no need for manipulation, no chasing, no shrinking, no losing your voice. Instead, there's depth. There's presence. There's a softness that feels like coming home, not because you finally found someone to save you, but because you remembered that you were never meant to save yourself through someone else. Ask yourself now, when I'm with them, do I feel more myself or less? Do I feel free or afraid? Do I trust this bond, or am I constantly looking for evidence that I'm not being abandoned? These questions matter, because the truth of a connection isn't in what you say to each other. It's in how your body responds when you're near. Do you breathe deeper or hold your breath? Do you sleep well or spiral in silence? The body never lies, and neither does the soul when we're brave enough to listen. If this message resonates, comment below. I want the kind of love where I can be fully me. That's your soul speaking. That's your truth. That's the kind of connection that doesn't shake you to your knees. It lifts you back to your feet. You keep asking if this person is meant for you, as if love were a riddle you could solve with enough clues. But the truth is, you won't know if someone is right for you until you are right with yourself, until you stop choosing from emptiness, until you stop shrinking to be loved, until you no longer need someone else to validate what you're unwilling to claim on your own. That's when the answer becomes clear, not because they change, but because you finally see. Carl Jung never said that love would be obvious or easy. He said it would be revelatory, that it would awaken the parts of you you've buried, ignored, rejected. And that kind of love doesn't just feel good, it feels real. But to experience it, you have to become someone who doesn't flinch at the truth. Someone who no longer mistakes anxiety for attraction or chaos for chemistry. You have to be the person who doesn't need a relationship to feel whole, because you finally become your own home. Destined love is not about finding someone who saves you. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need saving. And only then, only from that grounded, rooted place, can you recognize a bond that is real. Not because it fixes you, but because it mirrors back a version of you that's already healing. You think the test is whether they love you. But the real test is whether you still love yourself while loving them, whether you keep your voice, whether you stay soft without disappearing, whether your needs are allowed to exist in the relationship, because love isn't measured by how much you're willing to sacrifice. It's measured by how safe your soul feels in their presence. If you constantly feel like you're chasing, proving, performing, then it's not love, it's survival. And destined love will never ask you to survive it. It will ask you to expand through it, to grow in its presence, to become more of who you are, not less. Jung said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. If the person in your life is not helping you do that, if you're dimming your light just to be held, then that connection is not destiny, it's delay, it's repetition, it's the soul whispering, not this again. The one who is truly for you will never ask you to abandon yourself. They won't be afraid of your truth. They'll honor your wounds, not manipulate them. They'll hold your contradictions with curiosity, not judgment, and they won't disappear the moment your darkness shows up, because they've faced their own. This is the essence of a love that heals, not because it's perfect, but because it's rooted in presence, in safety, in emotional honesty. That kind of love doesn't burn you, it warms you. It doesn't provoke chaos, it brings clarity. And if you've never experienced that before, it's not because it doesn't exist, it's because you haven't yet known it within yourself. You cannot call in a love that's whole while you're still living in pieces, and no one else can complete what you're not willing to reclaim. That's why Jung didn't define soulmates as people who fit us, but as people who confront us with what we've left undone. That confrontation can lead to deep transformation, but only if you stay with yourself long enough to move through it. So ask yourself this: can I be fully seen by this person and still be loved? Can I express my fears without being punished? Can I ask for what I need without feeling like a burden? If the answer is yes, that's not a fantasy. That's not a projection. That's the beginning of a conscious bond, a connection where you don't have to beg for love. You simply receive it because you finally believe you deserve it. And if the answer is no, let that be your awakening. Let that be your turning point. Because sometimes the most powerful act of self-love is to walk away, not because they were never enough, but because you finally are. If this message touched your heart, write in the comments: "The real love I'm seeking is the one I give myself first." That's your closing statement. That's your vow to no longer confuse intensity with intimacy, or absence with fate. So subscribe, leave your comment, and share this with someone who keeps calling their pain love. Let them know you don't have to break to be loved. You don't have to disappear to be held. You just have to remember who you are. Because that is the real destination of love. Not the other, but the self. Not rescue, but recognition. And when that happens, when you finally stop chasing what hurts and start choosing what heals, then yes, you're ready. Ready for a love that doesn't ask you to forget who you are, but invites you with reverence to become even more of it.